Hello, everybody. I think we're here live on a Tuesday evening here in the UK. Let me just give it a moment for people to jump on and figure out we're here. Got two lovely backgrounds for everybody today to get people in the mood. So yeah, I'll just give it a moment just to let people jump on. We have another fabulous interview for you. It's been a few weeks, I think, since our last one. So really excited to be back. We're here with one of our interviews, inspiring people to get involved, inspiring people to think about different careers, how you might get there. We're here to inspire and help you. So if you have any desires to be part of the marine conservation, marine biology, oceanography, all of those worlds, WiseOceans is the place for you. We've got opportunities on our job board. We've got interviews here for you. So yes, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. So I can see a few people jumping on now. So welcome and welcome, Roni. Thank you for coming today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So Roni works for Atlantis dive resorts and liveaboards in the Philippines, and she has a sales and marketing background. And like so many people I know will be watching today, she wants to make a difference and has been able to kind of bring those skills. And I know we have loads of people who are interested in doing this, who perhaps didn't take the traditional marine biology route perhaps, or ended up doing something else and want to find their way into marine conservation. And we've, as you know, already had lots of people who do that. So and on our interview. So if you haven't, check back on our old interviews as well. So welcome, Roni. Thank you so much for coming. And I guess, you know, my standard opening question is really just to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, because you'll be able to do it so much better than me, and what you do and how you got there, and, you know, little bio for everyone.
A little swim with the currents and how we ended up on the reef. And so, yeah, so my name is Roni. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I work for Atlantis dive resorts and liveaboards in the Philippines, operating 2 dive resorts and a liveaboard, as the name may imply. And I kind of ended up in the dive industry as a mistake or through drift diving. I was in corporate America and doing the whole shebang of flights and business classes and hotels and all that stuff, to have a very early midlife crisis at 30, which was 12 years ago.
I've had one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 or 2 or whatever. And yeah, and ended up going to Roatan, Honduras to do my dive master. I've been a diver since '97. I've always been a recreational diver. You know, one of those people who dive twice a year on a trip, and kind of always have been looking forward to those trips, because the combination of the sun, the beach, and just the silence underwater and how it makes you feel and flow physically had always made a big impact. And I remember way back when I was still in corporate America, we went to San Martin, the Dutch French island in the Caribbean. And we met this couple there from the States who were in their 60s. In 6 months, they were ski instructors, and the other 6, they were dive instructors. And I kind of looked at them and went, oh, this is an interesting way to live life, right? Not to realize that years later, I'll be doing exactly the same thing minus the skiing, because I don't do cold very well. And so I ended up being a dive guide for 2.5 years in different countries. I was in the Caribbean for 1.5 years, Mexico, Honduras, Dominican Republic, and then went down to Asia, Philippines, Palau. After that, kind of the route, right? Just diving and really enjoying the underwater life and seeing different things. And one of the reasons I stopped guiding is I became a very angry guide. You would show stuff to people right? Like a pygmy seahorse and the Gregorian fans, and somebody with a big camera would come along and they'd try to break the coral so they can get a good shot. And as time progressed and more people had cameras, I just started seeing that more and more. And I became one of these guys who like, if you touch it, you're not diving with me. And so I realized maybe this is not the suitable career for me. And the idea has always been in my head to try to make a difference and educate people. And you'd be amazed of how many divers actually don't know what's in the ocean and how do corals live or die. And what impact they have if they don't have good buoyancy. They just think, oh, I don't have good buoyancy, I'll run through my air really quickly. No, you're actually breaking corals and disturbing marine life. And so a lot of the times where I guided it, a lot of it was around, you know, how do we become better divers, not just for us, but also for what's around us. With time and kind of changes in route of career, like I said, I stopped guiding and started going into the sales and marketing side of it, ran a resort in Costa Rica, and then worked in a massive dive shop in Palau doing the sales and marketing. After that, moved to the Philippines, where we lived for 5 years until this awesome pandemic hit. And yeah, and I think there everything kind of came together because the route for me, just a little bit about myself, I've been vegetarian, on the border of vegan, you know, not using any products that experiment in animals or contain any animal byproducts, recycle like a maniac, including clothes. You know, I don't buy, we have a group of friends where we change stuff and things like that around the world, you know, so really trying to live sustainable living, because I think when you live in third world countries, you get to see really a lot of trash, a lot of trash. It's well hidden in the first world. And so when you live in third world countries, you understand the role of education, because it's not about being angry with people. It's about explaining the impact. Yeah. And so as I started progressing in my career, it was like, okay, how can I take a company that I work for and that I promote and bring in conservation aspects, or bring in visions in marine conservation, and not only actually marine conservation, but also community development as a tool for education for marine conservation. So it's always been sorry,
almost by stealth.
Yeah, right, exactly. So the idea was always, okay, there is the core of what you do, and then there's the core of you. And I think people who excel in what they do is the people that bring in their core into what they do. So it goes hand in hand with everything that I do, is the way I live and the way I raise my children and the way we go about the world. And so when you talk to people, you understand that there is a lot of room to create education sessions or experiences for people where they can learn and then care more. So that's kind of how I ended up in the position of, you know, doing sales and marketing, but really also promoting and creating different programs that we do now in the Philippines.
Fantastic. Well, you know, I mean, you're absolutely speaking WiseOceans language, because that's, you know, education and just switching people on and getting people to care. Because once you care, then, you know, it's just a nice virtuous circle, isn't it? And you tell your friends, and, you know, it's just, for us, there's just no other way, you know. And I mean, I was watching TV yesterday, and there was the big report that came out from the UN, and there was something else, and what was going on in Greece, and it was just so depressing, because it was just like an onslaught of depressing stuff, and you just feel less and less able to do anything, and I'm like in that world, and so it's just like about, you know, let's just educate people more and get people to feel like they can make a difference as well, I think, because it's a big switch off otherwise.
Well, and I think the other thing is, a lot of times where we look at, especially, you know, disasters, natural disasters and things like that, we think that we are small, that we can make a difference. We're just one person, right? But there's actually an ancient Hebrew saying that says, if you have saved one soul, it is if you have saved the whole world. And so if you are able to make a difference, even in your smaller circle, where people start to make small changes to their lives. And I think this is the big stepping point, because a lot of people say, well, I care and I want to make a difference, but I'm so small. It's just me. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start. Well, you know what? Just start. Every action has a consequence. And if you do right, it will make a big difference in the end, because the more people you meet and the more people you preach and the more people understand and learn, the greater impact you have on this horrific, horrendous time that we live in.
So, speaking of which, so I imagine, like, obviously, I know that you're not in the Philippines at the moment, but and maybe over the last year and a half, things have, you know, a typical day has changed. But what is it that you do? You know, what is a typical day, or what are the range of things that you do as part of your job?
Wow. So my role is obviously to promote, I think, diving in the Philippines as a whole, and just the Philippines as a destination. So I do a lot of talks in dive.
What is diving in the Philippines like, for those who haven't been?
Oh, wow. So Philippines is in the heart of the Coral Triangle, which basically it's an imaginary triangle that has 6 aquatic nations in it. And it has 60% of the reef building coral species of the world and 70% of the various fish species in the world, which means that every time you go diving, or even just put a mask and put your head in the water, you are likely to see more species and greater marine biodiversity than anywhere else in the world. And so that alone makes the Philippines super special. In addition to that, the Philippines is actually a really big country. People think it's just a bunch of islands. No, but the landmass is massive. So if you put that together, it's about the size of Italy.
Wow.
And yeah, and then when you spread it around, you've got over 7,000 islands, and the channels in between the islands run around 300 meters deep, kind of on average. There's some deeper ones, some shallower ones, which means there's a lot of water that passes through the islands. So we sit not only in the Coral Triangle, but also in the meeting point between 2 major currents, the North Equatorial Current and the Pacific Current. So water is coming through the Philippines, rich in nutrients from the open oceans, and funnel through the islands, settle, which means that what we get is an incredible biodiversity in terms of corals. Just there's no bleaching. You know, we rarely see any diseases and things like that. The main problem, or the main obstacle for the corals, are obviously people. And the Philippines used to do a lot of dynamite fishing, but actually in the past 30 years, that had almost went to null, which is great. And because we're in the middle of the Coral Triangle, the recovery phase or phase of the corals is much faster. And so you've got amazing coral reefs, and then we have all the migratory species like whale sharks and thresher sharks and reefies, different sharks, mantas, we have dugongs, dolphins, and then we've got all the macro life, like on the islands, right, on the walls and on the sandy slopes. So there is everything in that country. And that's really what brought me back there, because I was there 10 years ago and then I came back.
Wow. I want to go now.
Yeah, oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. And we've been there for 6 years and dove a lot of it. And every vacation I had, we took, you know, it was a diving vacation to somewhere in the Philippines, kind of just to see. And there's so much to see, you know. And so obviously, like I said, going back, so my role is to promote the Philippines, and then afterwards Atlantis dive resorts in the various locations where we are. Now, by doing that, obviously you talk a lot about the diving and the biodiversity, but one of the things that we do a lot of is, like I said, is reaching out. So I do a lot of shows, dive shows, so probably around 20 a year in a normal year, 20 to 25. I speak in a lot of the shows about the biodiversity in the Philippines, about sustainable practices in the dive tourism, and kind of setting an example with different projects that we've initiated and are bringing forward right now. I write articles to different magazines and do heaps of Zoom calls with dive shops who have people who are interested in going to the Philippines. Then again, coming in and educating, what is the Philippines? What can you see there? And of course, what are the things that you can do while you're there to actually make a difference? So a normal day in my work, would be talking to a lot of people, writing. I also do all the social media for Atlantis, so bringing up really interesting content for people and bringing forward facts and stories that people want to learn from and about, as well as sitting back and taking my core and figuring out how it coexists or how it intertwines with a corporate strategy. And luckily it does. So I'm happy about that.
And do you find now that like divers who are at these shows and things, are you kind of leaning against an open door in terms of people really want to engage in sustainable dive practice, or is it still something you have to push for, or maybe a mixture of both?
I think it depends on the location and the world. So some countries are way more ahead, just in the awareness level. For example, like Oz, like Australians are very much conservationist. I also find that the West Coast in the US is like that. Kind of California, Washington, Oregon, those folks, people who, like I said, like it's for me, it's a way of life. It's not about just about diving. And so one of the things that I'm seeing, and then you've got some other countries where the education is so far off, like China, Malaysia, Indonesia, also within the Philippines. And then you've got countries that are kind of like in the middle. I find that to be like Mexico, for example. We've got a lot of awesome divers in Mexico, and a lot of them are starting to engage more and more and understand the greater impact that you have on land. The actions you take on land actually end up in the sea, right? And so that, I think it's a way, like I said before, it's way more of a bigger picture. People are stepping back and saying, whoa, wait a minute. It's not just about going diving in some beautiful destination. It's also about, what am I eating? Are the things that I'm eating sustainable? Am I, chasing bluefin tuna? Am I eating shark fin soup?
Yeah, sure. Wow, fascinating. Now, I mean, there are people who perhaps are watching this who maybe come from a sales and marketing background, or are doing something that's not directly involved in marine conservation, but maybe want to get involved, or even perhaps some of our younger viewers who are yet to go to university or are about to go to university or college. What sort of skills that you thought do you find yourself using that perhaps when you were younger you never thought would be the thing that you'd spend your time doing, or the skill that you thought you might never need, if that makes sense? Sorry, my brain's a bit fried.
No problem. I think in every job that you do, every job that you take, and every role that you fulfill has a bit of sales and marketing in it. Because let's say you have an idea and you want to bring it forward, you have to convince someone, right? Like, for example, if you're in the NGO world, okay, you'd write a grant request, or you write proposal for research projects, right? Those things are selling your idea to other people to get funding. So
take those modules when you're at college. Take those sales and marketing.
So everything that you do not be mistaken, is sales and marketing. I spent 1.5 years working for an NGO that was doing technology education as a tool for social mobility. So taking really poor, uneducated people and teaching them basic computer skills like Excel, for example. So if they have a small business, like we had projects in Africa where you'd have women who are weaving baskets, right, from palm leaves. And so what they do is that they get the palm leaves, they buy them, let's say they cost $1, okay? And then they dry them up in the sun for about 3-4 months. And then when they're ready, they start weaving the baskets. And then when they go to the market, they go like, oh, well, it cost me $1, so I'll sell it for $1 because that was like 6 months ago. Well, when you take technology, you bring that in, and then you start talking about basic concepts like labor, and the time you've invested, and not the short-sighted, oh, I need the money right now, so I'll sell it cheap so I can get rid of my goods. And so even during that time, and I was raising money for various projects that the NGO did, writing those emails and reaching out to companies to trying to get their corporate responsibility funds to support our projects It's all sales and marketing. You can call it sales and marketing, you can call it business development, you can call it whatever.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's trying to get attention to a project that you're focused on and you want to deliver and you want to execute, and getting that commitment, whether it's money or participants, it's all the same thing. So I think it's a very important skill.
Yeah, really great advice. And I think it's not maybe at the top of people's list when they're necessarily starting on that journey, but listen to this advice. It's really good.
Well, and here's another
that kind of stuff. Sorry.
Here's another point to it. Everybody, especially with WiseOceans and stuff, people are looking at what we call the third sector, right? The NGO world, the non-for-profit world. The non-for-profit world will always depend on money, right? You need to bring money in because you're not creating a product or a service that produces money, right? So you're always dependent on money. And then you look for the sources of that money. It either comes from the private sector or it comes from governments. And so you're kind of looking at this triangle, right? Because you've got the third sector, the private sector, and the public sector. And you need to figure out the right balance between them. I believe that every person in the third sector should open their mind and not only think about the public sector as the one supporting the third sector, but actually marrying the third sector with the private sector is what creates long-lasting sustainable projects. Because if the government changes and the political forces changes and the budget changes, you could have a 10-year effort that goes to drain. Yeah. But if you have a good relationship between the third sector and the private sector, who is after money, right? That actually creates the longevity, because if the two benefit, that relationship is never going to break.
No, really good advice. Yeah, everyone listen to this, write it down. That's great advice. In fact, my next question was going to be what advice, but that's really great. I think some people I'm not sure if this video has got linked to the event. So not everyone was, I've got a little question there about not being able to see the video. So hopefully if you can't, you'll catch this on our feed and people will catch up anyway. So I don't currently have any questions for you, but I'm going to finish off with a couple of my favorite questions, which I know you're going to have some awesome answers to. Well, first of all, it's really hard. The hardest question: what is your favorite marine creature and why?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Before you go into the questions, I just want to say a couple of things of what we're doing right now, and just so you understand kind of what the projects are.
I was going to ask that.
No problem. So the first thing that we started at Atlantis, that was 2.5 years ago, we created a school program. And that school program is geared towards high school students. And what we were able to do is to partner with some private high schools in Asia, where they would actually grant credits for those students by taking this course. And now the course is basically a combination of two elements. One is being certified diver, so actually getting certified. And two, we partnered with a Philippines-based NGO called the Big Blue Network, and they do education for sustainable fisheries. They did that in Fiji and Papua New Guinea and now in the Philippines for the past 6 years. And so the idea was to bring forward a curriculum that is not super deep, but at least introduces youth to the marine world. So basically talks about just the life cycle in the ocean. It talks about what are corals. Ooh, it's not a pretty rock. Fish life cycle. We use a really awesome tool called Foldscope. If you've never heard of it, Google foldscope.com. It's amazing. It's a tool. It's actually a traveling, it's a kit with a lens that magnifies times 140. And the whole kit, you mount the little lens on top of bristles and cartons, and then you create your little portable lab. And that whole structure mounts on your phone. So you can actually take videos and photos and magnify that even further. So what you do with this, and it comes as a kit, you've got your little slates and your pipetas and your little tweezers and everything you need to collect the samplings. And so we use that to look at the ocean, at the water, and we look at zooplankton, and then we talk about that, the food life cycle in the ocean. We take sand and then we look at microplastic and we talk about pollution. So really in a week-long program that the kids get credit on, they learn how to dive, but they also learn how to appreciate and love it. And you're talking about private schools in Asia. I mean, these guys are going to be big time CEOs and, so just planting that seed early on, success. So that was one project. Another project we have started doing is actually we teamed up with a UK-based NGO called Morocco. The guy who started it is a shark researcher. And so he is coming on board and leading trips where he educates people about that. And then we actually contribute parts of the proceeds back to the charities. A third project we have, which is crazy right now, is we're doing a coral rescue event. We're setting up coral nurseries in our locations, and we have teamed up with the Coral Restoration Foundation from Florida, where they have 100 and some sites, and they are the largest in the world. And so they're coming to the Philippines, and we're setting up trees together. And that event is actually open for divers, and that's going to be in September 2022. So you come down for a week, you have awesome dives in the Philippines, and one to two dives a day. You actually collect coral fragments, put them up on the trees, learn about the process, learn about the importance of
just getting it
rescuing
involved
corals.
Sparks so much in people,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Exactly.
And where do people find information about this?
They will go to atlantishotel.com, and under the specials tab, there's all those different trips that we do. We also are supporting a very small organization of 6 women in Dumaguete, and what they do is they make jewelry from recycled materials, so paper, plastic, recycled cotton, leather, whatnot. Our giveaways are actually things that they handmade, so this way we are able to support the local community, but also able to make a big impact on their lives and their understanding of trash, because now they're collecting it, and they would say, exactly. Well, they also kind of go like, wow, there's so much trash on the beach, in certain areas. Oh, and no, we shouldn't just do this, that movement. So it's just trying to make a difference in the little areas.
How exciting. This sounds fantastic. Really, really exciting. And like, there must be so many people out there watching this who like, I need a trip. I want to be a better diver. I want to make a difference. AtlantisHotels.com.
And then we also work with reef.org out of California. We do an annual trip with them, and we are a gold donor for them. So there's a lot of involvement, comes, like I said, the private sector and the third sector.
Just such a great model of how everything should work. Sounds really fantastic. Just bringing all those different elements together. Just what's the point in being all in our little silos and being separate? Makes no sense to me, at least.
Yeah. So back to my favorite marine animal. Well, I've got a couple that are like my kind of in the top of my list. And one of them is Sean the sheep. So Sean the sheep is a nudibranch. It's tiny. It's like less than 1 centimeter. If you look at it with your eyes, you won't be able to see anything. But it's one of the coolest. One of the coolest animals on the planet, because it is actually the only animal in the living kingdom that doesn't digest plants and digest it for energy. So what this little nudibranch does is it lives on a certain plant. And what it does is that it chews on the plant and it partially digests the sap, which is basically the blood of the plant. I mean, you guys are all biologists and stuff, so this is not a foreign terms to you. And so it partially digests that. And what it does is that if you look at the cell of basically anything, you've got the area where the photosynthesis happens, and that's in the mitochondria, right? And so in the mitochondria, what it does, it doesn't completely digest the sap, but it leaves the mitochondria area of the cells alive. So it actually is able to continue and do photosynthesis where the sap is inside their bodies. And that's why they're actually super shiny green, and they fade a little bit, and then they eat more of the sap and they become even more green. And it's just crazy. That entire process is called
That's a good
kleptoplasty.
choice.
Yeah, it's a really cool, super cool animal. And I think for me, especially after years, I mean, look, you get super excited, especially having been in Palau for 2 years, by the big stuff and, seeing whale sharks in the Philippines and seeing baby whale shark, and those
He's
things
got big
definitely,
hair.
yeah, it's so cool.
Maximum jealousy right now.
So cool. And mommy, yeah, mommy and a baby. Oh, so
How
cool.
big / small was it?
So the baby was probably around 5.5, 6 meters, maybe less than that. I don't know. They were just kind of,
So hard. It's so
I mean,
hard,
she
isn't
was
it?
massive. She must have been like 14 meters or something. And then he was just like cruising along next to her. And this is very rare. There's never been a documented
Yes,
birth of whale sharks. No one's ever seen a birth of a whale shark in the wild. So it was really very, very special. So it's very easy to kind of go woo on these things. But then I think one of the things that I learned to appreciate in the Philippines is the small, crazy stuff, like Shaun the Sheep.
It's such a reward when you find it. Fantastic. I love that choice. That's great. And my very final question is, and again, I'm assuming you have quite a lot of these, but what's your most unforgettable moment in the sea? Just to inspire people to.
Wow. So yeah, definitely this one. It's so we were in Palau, and it was before we had kids, but planning to get pregnant. And so I went on a dive, and don't tell anyone, but I would let the group, because I was fun diving, I would let the group go on, and I'd tag along way, way, way in the back, kind of. And the boat captains knew when I'm on the boat, like, yeah, I've got my SMB and it's fine. But so I was tagging along way in the back, and we were in German Channel in Palau, an amazing dive site. And it's got like this, it's a man-made channel, but it's got these hard coral wallish things, and then they kind of filter through a channel. So I was cruising along there, and I remember I was kind of in my own zone, and then I looked to the blue, and there was this female gray reef shark. And she was, normally they swim away, and she was just kind of cruising next to me and looking at me. And it was her, and I kind of, whoa, just kind of looked at her and tried not to make any sudden moves, because it was really special. She was really comfortable.
Wow.
And as she looked at me, I kind of felt something really weird. And that moment, I knew I was pregnant. And of course, I went out of the water and I took a test, and I was. So that is a very, very memorable moment for me, and very special one.
Yeah, how wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, like just the goat with the shark is wonderful, and then to tag it onto a new life is just wonderful.
Yeah, it may sound crazy, but I just, it's just sometimes these things happen, and it's just there.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, it's just been great having you today on this, Roni. You bring so much positivity and energy, and I really hope that people will check out atlantisresorts.com.
It's atlantishotel.com. Yeah, but if you Google Atlantis Dive Resorts, you'll find it. It's
yeah. Find it, to check out all the awesome stuff and listen to the great advice you've been giving our listeners as well. So fantastic. Thank you, everybody. And if you have any questions, if you're watching this on catch up, please put them in and we'll do our best to answer them. And we'll see you all next time. So thank you so much, and farewell, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.